6:44 on Monday, October 29th, 2018. Meeting to order. This is one of our off-cycle meetings. The primary purpose of the meeting was to discuss our school committee goals, and we consider this a workshop, so there will not be any policy decisions made during this one. However, a late addition to our agenda that happened last week will now be the first item that we're going to discuss, and that's the only action item. We have a discussion and the potential vote after that if the committee decides to do so. Before we do that, I will let everybody know that we don't have any visitors because this is a routine part of our meeting. Typically we ask for any comments from our visitors, and having none, we're going to move into new business. The first item is Chinese Immersion School proposed expansion. Again, this is a discussion and then a vote if the committee decides to propose a resolution and endorse a resolution. Does everybody know what this is about, the Chinese Immersion charter school expansion? So this is something, just for everyone's benefit, this is something that is coming back. It was proposed last year, and it was rejected by the state. In fact, it was rejected by the state after many area schools expressed their own objection to the expansion. I believe the Chinese Immersion Charter School, which is in Hadley, they are trying to almost double their enrollment. And last year, when the state rejected their request, they had a few demands or requests of their own. And on that, what Bessie, the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, told the charter school was that there were a few things that they wanted to be clarified. And among those, they wanted them to clarify their approach to special education students. They wanted to clarify some of the enrollment practices, I guess, if they were selective or not, so that there is diversity in the school district as expected. The objections that were raised from area schools, and we were one of the area schools that were concerned, it is related to the charter school cap. In fact, last year we went back to our own notes and found that the resolution that we endorsed last year was related to the vote that was at the state level, and that was related to increasing the cap of all charter schools, and that was voted down by the citizens of the Commonwealth. The idea is putting the Chinese Immersion School to the side. The idea is fairly simple and fundamental, is that charter schools are considered public schools, yet they are really taking away from the funding available funds to public schools such as ours. And there is really no repercussion to any practice that may be different than ours, at least currently. So last year, when the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education evaluated their request and got back to them, they asked them to look at it for a few years. In fact, that was the language. Just look at this for the next couple of years, and then come back to us having resolved or clarified some of the objections that area schools are raising, and then we can talk about that. It seems that the school decided to reapply this year without waiting any longer. I posted a couple of articles in our folder for this meeting if you hadn't any opportunity to look at those. One of the interesting notes there is that they currently do not seem to have an adequate space to accommodate the expansion that they're proposing. They're hoping that it's going to go the other way around, that they're going to propose the expansion, and once approved, then they're going to go in the direction of expanding the structure to accommodate. So whoever they are able to take in the next couple of years, at the very least, until they have the adequate space, will have to really be accommodated in the available space. So from our perspective, the principle, again, was related to the charter schools taking away some of the funding by taking away some of our students. And the expansion was basically providing them with an almost unmitigated amount of students that they can add to what they were able to take from our students. I don't know that our district is dramatically affected by that, but we have taken a stance against expansion of charter schools, against removing the cap on charter schools. So by virtue of that, my personal sentiment is that until, again, those questions are answered and some of those issues are clarified, I would be inclined to support the endorsements that some of the area schools already put out there. One of them is Amherst Pelham Regional School District, and I believe Northampton had supported it last year. I don't know if they had done anything similar this year. I did not find anything to that effect. I would be inclined to have a conversation as to whether the school committee is again in favor of potentially saying that we are still thinking that the cap should not be removed, therefore the expansion is not supported by our committee, or even beyond that, put our own resolution, which is similar to what we put out last year, and then share it with the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. That's my long rant on this.
And you said you put articles in here. Did I miss those? Because I can't find them.
Right, there's one here.
Oh, I put a couple of newspaper articles.
I saw the state rejects Pioneer Valley Chinese Immersion Charter School expansion, but is there another one?
No, one of them was actually the email that we had received from the
Okay.
Amherst
Okay.
School District. Any thoughts?
I think one of the key things for me when it comes to charter school expansion is that they just simply aren't asked to serve the same population as public schools. They're taking public money. They should serve all of the public the way public schools are asked to. And there's just no enforcement in that. Just charter schools are routinely, have children with special needs or who speak different languages are just not allowed in. And it's very unfortunate because by doing that, it makes school boards like us sit around and say, you know what, when you're held to the same standards and the same accountability as us, then we can maybe have a bigger discussion about a better partnership. But it's really difficult to have a strong partnership with schools that simply aren't held to the same standards. That's my take on the charter school expansion.
Are charter schools on a lottery system? That's what.
Yeah.
And not, so they don't technically get to choose who
Right,
is.
so they'll take them, there's actually a really great organization based out of Springfield that's trying to improve access for children with special needs. I have a colleague whose daughter was dyslexic, diagnosed while in a charter school, and they just could not serve her needs. And she was constantly getting into trouble because she couldn't read anything. So that's how they were able to expel her. And so that's a big problem.
I'm not sure if they're entirely on the lottery system. I think
There's some that are merit-based, I think,
yeah.
but most are lottery. Like PVPA is pure lottery.
Yeah, in this case, What they are saying is that they do have more students for kindergarten than they currently have in their school. So it's their indication that, contrary to what some folks have said, that they don't have the numbers and they are trying to really expand without having the numbers and create. Go with the supply. Supply creates its own demand, so we're going to have the room. If we build, they will come. Exactly. So they were saying that wasn't the case because they have applications from more students than they currently are able to accommodate in their kindergarten based on their current cap. So if that cap, in other words, was moved, they would have more students. Again, in terms of, I don't think from a perspective of educational opportunity, any one of us will have any objection of students being able to do whatever they would like to do. But it is often coming at the expense in general. I'm talking about charter schools in general. It is coming at the expense of school districts like ours, because without much qualification and much restriction or concern about equal treatment of the entire population, we seem to have giving a carte blanche for to charter schools to be able to attract any type of student that they want. It is. They're public schools, but they are almost advertising a little differently because they're on that different level. Then we have to compete against the private schools that are at a completely different level. So that is causing an unfair environment for the public schools that are trying to survive on what they have and try to make do with what they have. So what are your thoughts about a resolution or about a decision, about a vote to express our opinion about the expansion?
I don't really feel as though I have enough information to vote one way or the other. I don't feel like I have enough statistics or research to make an educated decision.
Is this with respect to the Chinese immersion or charter schools in
Just the
general?
Chinese immersion.
Okay.
I agree with what Jen says. I do think that they're not as equipped as public schools are to handle special needs and maybe English language learners. But I don't know enough specifically about that school to know if what they're saying is accurate, that they have the demand currently and that's why they need to expand, or and so it's hard to make a decision that way with very little information.
Yeah. And I hear you, but I think from my perspective, that was the reason why we had a resolution against the cap in general last year. Really increasing that amount of students that can now freely go from public schools like ours to a charter school, which is considered public, and then take all the funds with them. It is creating an unequal playing field for us.
I think one of the frustrating things is that the application to DESE hasn't changed, even though DESE has requested changes regarding, what Emery was talking about. And to the point that it actually has been a disingenuous process regarding the Chinese immersion leadership making claims that they had conversations with other school districts regarding collaborating for building space when those conversations never happened. So I think combining that disingenuous approach with the fact that they haven't changed their application in, I think now 3 years, just leads the superintendents and the school districts in this area to see that there isn't a real faith effort at making the changes that DESI's requiring so that they could actually move forward with the application. So, you know, our stance is that until they do that, then the application was rejected 3 years ago, it was rejected 2 years ago, it's rejected this year, and we would like to add our voice that there has been no change to that application, therefore it should be rejected again.
Mike?
I can agree that if they haven't made any changes, then why would we want to change, you know, our opinion of what they want to do? Right, they haven't given anybody any reason to change their mind.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, to be clear, we did not have a specific resolution with respect to the Chinese immersion school last year. It was really in the context of the overall statewide vote that we passed a resolution that said it's a long resolution that is in our folder, we are not in favor of expanding or increasing the numbers that charter schools can enroll in their schools.
And that's why this feels different. You know, it's a different conversation because we're talking about a specific school as
Right.
opposed to, you know, yes, overall, I think we have to slow down because we've all seen the impact of what charter schools have done to smaller districts. Having said that, it's just hard to make a decision when, you know, I'm asked to make a decision based on hearsay and not a whole lot of facts. And maybe one article or two articles, or that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that I'm in favor of it or
Yeah.
I'm against it, or it's just.
I don't really want to belabor the conversation because this is not the main topic that we call this meeting for. So if there is really no interest in putting out a resolution or a statement, then we can do it that way. But to be fair, I'm not sure that whatever we shared is really hearsay. I mean, that's all everybody has. If the state says, you know what, guys, you have to wait a few years, and then whatever application you have with us does not meet our requirements, I think it's a little more than hearsay. But I understand where you're going with that. If you're not comfortable with specifically passing a resolution or making a statement with respect to a particular school, that's fine.
Well, I'm only one member, and it seems as though you have three members that.
No, I'm going to ask if there is a vote
Yeah.
because that's how we brought it. But you don't have to feel compelled to.
My
Go on
only
with that.
other concern here is there was more than just the information that I've seen. I just found another article. Everything's focused on whether or not they have the applications to fill those new seats that they're asking for, but nowhere in any of these articles are they actually addressing the other issue, which is are they treating all the kids the same? Except one denial by somebody, but I'd be interested to know if there's actually any real data that shows that they are taking care of those special needs kids. That would be my problem with them expanding right now, is you didn't answer that other question. At least that I can see.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Okay. So, since that is how we have it on our agenda, is there a motion to pass any resolution or a statement, either way, to express this school committee's opinion with respect to the Chinese immersion charter school expansion?
I'll make that motion.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. And just because you made the motion, you don't have to vote the same way? Okay. All right, any other discussion or conversation? So what is the motion?
I motion that we craft a resolution stating that we do not support the expansion of the Chinese immersion charter school.
Okay. So, I'm just thinking, because we set a resolution, we have a resolution that we use for charter school cap, but it's not the same thing. So I don't know if it's going to be. My understanding is that schools actually that voted for a resolution, they pretty much did the same thing. They took their old resolution and they re-endorsed it because conditions didn't change. So, but we did not really have a specific resolution on this.
And that's what it looks like the request is. It's for specific, specific opposition to the proposed expansion.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question.
Yes.
I also don't feel like I have enough information to fully know, so all I can see is one article here. But in my mind, there's some questions that haven't been answered, so.
Again, just for general rule, we make the motion, we second it. You don't have to necessarily vote one way or the other. It doesn't really bind you just because you were part. So if your question remains and if you're not comfortable, Deanne said pretty much the same thing, then fine, you don't have to really.
Well, my question is if we vote no tonight, does that mean we can't come back?
We can always come back. The only reason why this is a November 1st thing, because my understanding is that the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education will make a decision in the next week or so, and November 1st was the deadline for them to receive any official resolution or decision made by school committees or the community. People can actually write on their own if they want to. People watching right now, they can just send an email and say, you know what, for these reasons, we are against this expansion. There is really no requirement that says it has to be school committees only. There is no requirement that says it has to be expressed at this time. The primary importance of the November 1st deadline is that they will make a decision soon after that at a meeting. That's it.
My reason for pause is that if we don't vote in the affirmative, if Mike and I are just a little concerned about not having enough information, wanting to do more research on our own, and we don't vote in the affirmative, are we sending a message? Well, Granby didn't support it, so what does that mean?
Well, to me, it doesn't mean anything if we can explain it well enough that, there wasn't enough information for the school committee to vote in favor of that. If you guys want to abstain, that's fine. Then, we're not going to have the majority vote, and it just gets tabled, and that's fine. I personally wouldn't read too much. We already made it very clear, and I did not change my position, that charter school expansion is not really good for public schools in this state or anywhere else. Unless there is a change to the way charter schools are chartered, and they go to the state and change their application, make it clear, change their treatment of special needs students, change their labor practices, and so on and so forth, right? So I have a variety of objections, which I expressed last year when we were talking about the overall resolution. But it doesn't really mean that this committee cannot say what you guys said, that, hey, we need a little more information to be able to talk about this. And with that explanation, it doesn't really show that we are in support of the expansion. It just shows that we, for one reason or another, did not have a resolution. That's it. At least that's how I would read it.
I would feel comfortable using the same language that we used last year.
So that was gonna be my approach. If this didn't get voted, I was gonna actually then put out a second motion to just use what we used last year, or the last time?
Last time, we did not have a Chinese immersion school specific resolution.
Right, but that's what I would feel more comfortable sending out there right now, because I don't.
Or if there was one, you would be more comfortable, but there is none, so.
No, I
is that
mean,
what
if
you're
there
saying?
was,
If we made the motion in such a way that it was a broader motion.
Okay.
And it wasn't specific to Pioneer Valley.
You can-
Yeah, I didn't make
Exactly.
it clear enough, but that was one of my, one of the paths that we could take, that I thought we could just reiterate our broader
Yes.
thought on charter schools.
I would feel very comfortable doing that.
Okay.
Can we amend the
I
motion?
think you would vote the motion.
Well, I would like to actually amend the resolution, first of all, because I would like to send this to the committee, which I don't know how to do since it's not showing me where it is located. It just pops, but I can't see where it is. Do you know how to do that? Cheryl? Oh, it says share, so I'll share it. Everybody has their computers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, let's make it even more painful and share it this way. And after a while, you get so used to typing Jen that I forget you were not Jen, you were Mike.
it's because I'm used to sitting over there.
Kathy, let's just copy her. And I will copy you as well, Robin. Sure. But I can't. It would not. Oh, there you go. Alright, so I'm sharing it. Who's the owner of this? The resolution last year?
Me.
Did you receive
Me.
something?
It says me.
Okay. Alright, so I think you will have to then. Did everybody receive the resolution?
You emailed it to us?
I shared it
Share
from
it with
Google
you.
Drive.
Oh, okay.
And
Is it
search
in is it in
resolution.
tonight's folder?
Email charter school expansion request?
No.
If you go to the Google Drive and go to shared with me,
Yeah.
and then you can search resolution.
Resolution against lifting the cap?
Yes,
Yes.
there's two. The first
And the
is the
McDuffie one.
resolution for rural schools, and the second is the resolution for lifting the cap.
Okay.
So I have it open in Google Docs, so there's Jen.
Which one, the docs? The docs one?
It
Yeah.
says resolution against lifting the cap on Commonwealth charter schools.
Mm-hmm.
And there's Mike.
So the only change that I would suggest to this would be the one that specifically talks about how much Granby is spending on Commonwealth charter schools and other schools, because we don't have that number for this point in time.
So we just take that whole piece out?
Yeah, or we can amend that to leave the latter part. Whereas Granby Public Schools are losing funds,
Yes.
it is undermining the ability of our district to provide all students with the educational services to which they are entitled. Are you keeping notes? So the change is basically remove everything before the hyphen, and then change districts to our district. So it would say whereas Granby Public Schools are losing funds, that is undermining the ability of our district to provide all students with the educational services to which they are entitled.
so I just reworded it a little differently.
Okay.
In that Granby Public Schools, whereas Granby Public Schools is losing funds, this loss of funds is undermining the ability of the district to provide all students with the educational services to which they are entitled.
Okay, that's fine too. Any other amendments to last year's or to this?
Works for me.
Works? Okay. So the motion is then, we need to amend the motion. Can you please
Yep,
amend it?
so I'll amend the amend the motion for resolution against lifting the cap. We're gonna amend from the naming the Chinese immersion school to keeping it generic, to just have a resolution against lifting the cap on Commonwealth charter schools.
Okay. So is it a motion to endorse a resolution to, against lifting cap on Commonwealth charter schools?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right. So that's the amended motion. All right. Any discussions on the amended motion? Any questions?
Just
Okay.
making-
All right, all in favor to approve the amended resolution against lifting the cap on Commonwealth charter schools, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So I will send the decision, if you can just capture the decision, and then we'll send the decision to Bessie.
Yeah, last year we had
The
people step in
resolution.
and sign it. I added all of your signature lines.
And we want to scan it? Okay.
So I could do that in the morning
All right,
tomorrow. And
okay,
if you could make sure that you stopped in before Wednesday to sign,
Alright.
and then we can email it for
okay, we'll do it that way. So
Halloween.
tomorrow's Halloween?
Wednesday
Oh,
is
okay.
Halloween.
If I came trick-or-treating, could I sign it then?
Say again?
So if I came trick-or-treating, could I sign it then?
Yes, you could, and I'll take the photo.
Cool.
I did say I was gonna dress up.
All right, that was longer than I thought, but thank you all very much.
I'm not surprised.
This actually, I gotta tell you, even though we didn't receive a long email, typically when you have a request to support something like that, you have a resolution already that goes with it, saying this is a resolution we endorsed, and change it the way you see it fit. It makes it very difficult for a school like ours that is not right next to the school that they are talking about. And I think it is fine for a school like our district to take the opportunity to restate our position with respect to charter schools. So that's what we're going to send. Now we're going to turn to the main topic of the day, which is our goal setting for our school committee. This is primarily a workshop. It's not a policy or decision meeting. It's really talking about our strategy and the goals with respect to that. If you want to follow the workshop, that's fine. If you don't want to follow the workshop, that's fine as well. We're good either way.
I'll film it, so I'm filming it.
You can do what?
I've told film it, I'm filming it.
Okay. Until you run out of tape?
Yes.
All right, that's good. All right. So I think last time said that we would have two sets of goals. One is the goals that align with our strategic plan directly. Those are the goals that we would like to achieve because they're directly linked to what we would like to do with respect to our district. So those are district-related goals that align with this strategic plan. But we also talked about goals that are this school committee's, what we would like to do as a school committee, how we would like to do things differently this school year. So my My thought is that we're talking about the latter, school committee-related goals this time, right? Because we already have district goals based on our strategic plan. We already set those and then endorsed it as a school committee. So we should be good with that. Is that a fair understanding? I don't want to really move ahead before we agree on that.
So I think we set them last year, right? And we're just gonna use the goals we had last year, or do we set new?
No, the ones that you're looking at,
Well, this is the strategic plan.
Yeah,
That's
this is
the-
the strategic plan.
yes, strategic plan has goals, and we endorsed the strategic plan and the goals that underlie
Yes.
the strategic plan.
No, so for tonight, it's the school committee goal.
It's the school committee goals. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page on
Mhm.
that. Okay. So,
Where to begin?
oh, I have an idea. So, I'll just go to my own file. So I will go back to the self-evaluation and the conversations that we had. It was very nice to have our visitors last time, but I think a couple of them were complimentary, which we appreciate. Keep on doing what you were doing. Connection with the community is good. There were a couple of suggestions. One of them wasn't really our purview. We sent it back to the Wellness Committee for the caffeine-related policy. And there was one more that escapes me now from the top of my head. I can't remember what it was.
The fields.
The fields, yeah.
Yep.
There was one more related to the budget process, and it's already part of our process and part of our calendar, but, you know, we should hold ourselves accountable for that, and we should tell everyone that we would like you to hold us accountable for it. And our current approach is to have at least 3 meetings, joint meetings with the Select Board and the Finance Committee, which may go up to 4 when we have further discussions. And I believe that's going to become, the 3 meeting minimum will become part of the new bylaws of the town. So it's going to be ingrained in there. Okay. So what we did with our self-evaluation, we really highlighted a few areas where we had lower than average scores. One of them was related to the new member introductory training or in orientation when they joined the committee. Another one was related to procedures and protocols for committee operations, the way they're published and understood by our committee, which is probably a critical one. Is it fair to say that the first one is what you are working on, Deanne?
Yes.
That you will be bringing it to the committee next meeting, or did we say next meeting, or the meeting
Well,
after
we didn't really
that?
decide. I think it depends on, you know, what the agendas look like for the meetings,
Okay,
because this is gonna take some time. So I guess,
so I guess our goal on that one is that the school committee will have a well-established and regularly updated training and orientation for the new members
yes.
as we onboard them.
Training.
I can only say it once. The school committee will have a well-established training and orientation
For new members.
for new members as we are onboarding them. The second one actually received less favorable scores, which was procedures and protocols for committee operations are published and understood. Most of us thought that was really subpar. So I guess the school committee is in need of creating and approving a set of procedures and protocols as to our roles and responsibilities and the way we operate. which many school districts do have and they publish. We can look at what's available and then bring it back to the committee. The the one thing that I'm thinking is, does that fall under the purview of any of the subcommittees that we have? Should we ask them to really?
The community relations subcommittee, maybe?
Well, so simultaneous to this, the business office is developing their budget, their procedural manual for the business office. So certainly the school committee would be part of that discussion, the budget subcommittee. But you may also have procedures around the budget that are relative to the entire committee.
Okay.
So, yes, I guess the answer shortly is the subcommittees would probably want to have some discussion about.
Right. Would the policy subcommittee, and I pause there because I know that you guys are about to wrap up your work. I don't want to add another thing. If that's what it is, that's fine too. But there is already a policy that speaks to the role of the purview of the school committee. So
Yes.
by virtue of that, I was thinking that this may be an extension of it.
Yep.
And we can just look at the existing documentation that other school districts are using with respect to their roles and responsibilities and procedures, and adopt a version of it. But I don't want to, again, dump it on a subcommittee that is already going through tons of policies and about to wrap them up.
It'd be pretty easy to just find the ones. Because
Okay.
we have to review them anyway as a group.
Yeah.
You know.
I have some that I can send to you guys if you
Yeah.
want to just look at them and see if there is some combination of those that you would like to adopt. And by the way, the nice thing is, most of them are using the template that is provided by MASC anyway, so it shouldn't be really dramatically time-consuming effort, hopefully.
Okay, yeah, that'd be fine.
Mike, you had something?
Well, I just, maybe I was reading it all wrong, but I just thought that the second one we were talking about would actually be just a couple of pages from the first one. Like the first one is kind of like, here's a school committee, this is how we operate, and then the second one is more specific, like this is how you make a motion, this is how you get something on the agenda. Just more like that.
So you're probably right. It should be part of that document as well. But the second one, the procedures and protocols, I'm guessing it's something that we all need to keep in front of us because it is about our roles. So, somebody becomes the chair, there should be something that talks about the role of the chair, the vice chair, how we vote about certain things. You asked about whether or not you specifically follow Robert's rules, and all. So we should talk about all those so everybody's on the same page. There is really, to my knowledge, there is no rule that says we have to follow Robert's rules. But many organizations do, and the benefit of that is that everybody is on the same page and everybody knows the rules of engagement, the rules of disagreement, rules of questioning, inquiry, and all that. So I think that's how I read that. Otherwise, I completely agree that somebody who's being onboarded should have that document in front of them as well, because that's key.
Okay.
So what is that goal, the second goal?
Under that goal, I have school committee,
Will create a procedural manual that documents operational procedures and protocols as well as roles and responsibilities of the committee
Okay.
and its members, or the committee, because operationally you're a
Yes.
committee, but you're also members.
Yeah. So that's why probably it's not a bad idea to push it to the policy subcommittee, because when we say the role and responsibility of the committee, that is one of those policies that we already
Yes.
have, which is pretty standard.
And I think one of the things we realized in going through the policy was that there were often procedural documents and
Yeah.
procedures that really didn't belong in policy, but belonged somewhere, and where it belongs is in the school committee procedural manual. Or they were student handbook issues, or they were central office procedural manuals or business manuals, business office
It's
manuals.
like
Procedural. Yeah.
like
Sample
future
forms and things like that.
In policy.
Any other thoughts on those? Are those good?
Well, I'm just, as I'm going through this process of putting this together, and I'm looking at a lot of different school committee handbooks and policy manuals and doing some cutting and pasting, and it probably makes sense to just wait until you guys see this document as in a draft form, and then,
Sounds like you're gonna have a surprise for us. Everything will be in there.
well, I think it's gonna be pretty thorough. But there is, there were questions, I'm jotting down questions as I go along, because even in some of the policies, they make mention to refer to policy K, and of course, my question is, where are we gonna put this? Is it going to be in, I was questioning the same thing, is it gonna be in the student handbook, how does this? So I think, once you see it in draft form.
So I think you are making me think of something that is, instead of the goal, I started talking about how we're going to do it, and that's not what we should do. We should talk about the goal, and when you share what you're putting together, that may satisfy that goal, but the goal is a goal, right? We would like to have a set of we would like to have a documentation of the procedures and roles and responsibilities of the school committee and its members. We'll just leave it at that, and yours will be, hopefully, to an extent or completely, a document that will satisfy that particular goal. If not, we can work on it then. Does it make sense? The goal should be generic, a little more high level, and then what we do under it
Yes.
is more
because
specific.
What I'm working on is also encompassing the relationship between the school committee and the superintendent, the relationship between the school committee and town officials, and so it's pretty encompassing.
Cool, thank you for that.
And at the same time, I don't want it to be 50 pages, so, because, I don't think any new school committee member wants, it's overwhelming enough. I mean, I just remember when I stepped on, trying to keep that in mind too. Trying to make it thorough and concise without,
Well, it can be in many manuals, there are modules. So somebody who's being onboarded can read sections of that. It doesn't have to be the full 50 if they would like to. I'm not saying that it should be 50 pages, but if it's a large document, there should be some key sections pertinent to somebody new to the committee. And then at any time that becomes a reference document for any one of us to just go back and see what we need to do, how we should follow our own procedures. Okay. Anything else on that one? So, how does-
one
yes.
thing, just to be clear, what I'm focusing in on is not a procedural manual.
You have an orientation.
Yes, this is an onboarding orientation
Right.
document.
We should still be able to take pieces of that if it's in there,
Exactly.
and
We're
then
going to
just kinda-
steal yours and
Yes, that's the point, right,
Well, they should overlap, as it should overlap with policy.
Yeah.
So the policy committee is probably well-positioned to take a look at what you've created and see where are the links to policy and the policy manual and the procedural manual that's going to go along with the policy.
And that's our goal tonight. We're trying to come up with those goals. And as we're going to bring this back, it's not, I think one of the self-criticisms that we had is we should not come up with these goals and then put it to the side and come back to it next year. It should come back regularly so we keep ourselves honest and then see whether or not we are making any progress. As we do that, we will determine what part of this will be satisfied with what you're working on, Deanne, and then rest of it can go to the policy subcommittee or a combination of the members. All right, so the next, that was aligned with operations, school committee operations. Then we have strategic planning and fiscal management section. And the next two are specifically aligned with the fiscal management part of it, not strategic planning part of it. They're related to the budget process. And the first one says the budget process is documented and published. And we had 2.2, which is, again, below average on that one. So the gap being that there is really no specific, we are sharing, we are trying to be transparent, but again, we are not following a checklist, a standard work to say, this is what we're gonna do, this is where we're gonna put it, this is when we're gonna do it, this is, you know.
So with Adam on board, he is actually going to be applying for the MASBO Budget Development Award,
Right.
which will really shape our conversation this year as we go through the planning process. So we will submit that and then get feedback. So it will require us to document all of the things that we're doing along the way, particularly with school committee.
Yeah. So without thinking, that's great, and he mentioned it a few times,
Yep.
and I'm really looking forward to it, without really looking at the solution.
Right, so I have, school committee will have a well-established and documented budget development.
Well, there are two pieces. The second piece that I didn't talk about yet is related to the development of the budget. And that says budgets are developed based on needs from the bottom up. But this one is particularly saying that the budget process is documented and published. And I don't want to really kill this, but this is probably something that the budget subcommittee can start with. But in terms of its communication, I think the community relations subcommittee will have a lot to do with that as well, because one of the concerns that we've been hearing is we are updating and we are posting, but it wasn't really clear what we were changing, what was being updated, which version we were looking at. So anything from the content to the versioning of the document, it wasn't really clear. Folks were not sure whether they were understanding what was there. The MASBO award approach will help us to make it clearer for all of us. But I think there is something related to the process as well that we're trying to improve here. So the school committee will develop a specific process with respect to the documentation and publication of the annual budget. We can probably start with that.
You stated that in a way that you don't want it stated. You solved your problem, right? You will create, I think you've been stating this as the end goal is school committee will have a well-established, that's where I lost you, budget development process.
School committee will have will establish a process to document and publish its annual budget.
I think you wanna, well, I don't know, one of the things that I think needs to be in that.
So I talked a lot. That's good, but I'm looking for some suggestions then. Just, if we say no to what I say, it's not gonna end.
I'm not saying no.
At the end, what do you want? You want a noun, right? You
Right.
want a process.
You said a well-established publicly documented process.
Documentation and publication, I said.
Okay.
It's too wordy.
Okay, so I'm good with.
I'm thinking, give
Yeah.
me a minute, just keep throwing out,
School
formulating.
committee will have a
And is
I was gonna
this,
say a defined and documented school budget process.
A
Is this-
defined school,
timeline, is this the actual timeline?
No, this is basically a process,
so you were talking about bottom up and.
two separate things, but we can put them in one. But the idea here is the documentation and publication of the budget. So what you said earlier
Okay, budget development process.
about what Adam is trying to do, that would be part of this.
Right.
But how do we say it? The school committee will have a process that clearly documents and publishes the annual budget.
Documented budget development process.
Okay, that's fine too.
Documented budget development and publication process.
Say that again now?
The school committee will have a documented budget development and publication process.
I mean, we can make it as simple as the school committee will have a process to document and publish its annual budget.
Yeah,
That makes more sense to me.
okay, we'll have a,
The other one,
The school
Made
committee
no
will have a
sense to me.
process to document and publish its annual budget.
yeah.
okay.
Now, can you read that back to me?
Nope.
Please?
It's done.
School committee will have a process to document and publish its annual budget.
One more time? Please.
Can you put your listening ears on,
I
please?
am, no, I need to hear it again, please.
School committee will have a process to document and publish its annual budget.
Okay.
Do you think you need to put in there for public availability? Because you are trying to be transparent, and all of these policies you're adopting are for the public? Or the town? I'm not trying to wreck that, that's beautiful that way, but I think somehow you need to have something in there that, because people often question your process and how come they didn't know about things before.
Mm-hmm.
Can you add maybe a couple of words where it's publicly available?
Can you read that back to me one more time, please?
Sorry, Cheryl.
All right. Just make sure there's no projectiles next to her.
I'm writing
type
it down
it
this
out.
time. I have to see, there's something that is not making sense
why
about
don't I
this.
do it in Google Docs and then you will be able to see?
Yeah.
You can
That
follow.
would be good.
How about that?
Yeah.
Okay. Just
We are making
give me
improvements
a
as we sit
second,
here. That's
Okay, give me a second.
impressive.
I have to save it, then I have to convert it. School committee operational goals, 2018.
Am I gonna be able to toggle between this document and going back into
Yeah.
Google Drive?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
School committee will-
Ask Jen.
I don't know how to do
You
that.
can go back up there.
Okay.
Well, I know how to do that, but
So do you want it in the folder for
It's just-
tonight?
So it's gonna go, just click shared with me. And then you can go right into the school committee there.
yeah.
Do
That's not
we know where
easy
where
to
you
toggle
are?
back and
Where you're
forth.
making these changes?
Well, if you
So,
open-
my question is, do you want me to just share the document with you?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to put it in tonight's folder?
Well, if you can share it, then we can see what's there.
Either
Then
way you
DM would
can,
not
it's
ask
where,
for the.
it's where it's gonna
Yes.
be, it's where it's
Either that
home,
or I'll
it's
start
gonna be-
writing everything
Right.
down so I can,
Oh my god.
I need to see it. It's hard for me to.
Okay, I'm putting it in tonight's folder.
That's not
Okay.
how I
Okay.
learn best.
Now Alex is thinking, good thing I stayed because it is becoming really exciting.
Okay.
Or he's thinking the exact opposite.
It could be worse.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my goodness, I just. Okay, school committee operational goals, there you go. You just give it a minute, I have to open it in Google Docs. And then you will be able to click, you should be able to
it's in
see
the,
it and open with Google Docs. can't make it my own. Just kidding.
All right, there
All
we go.
right,
Which one?
There we are.
school committee
Oh, one
operational
of them is
goals, but the
Google
Google
Docs. Okay.
Doc, not the
Yeah.
Word.
Okay, where am I
Alright.
here? I don't see it.
Did you
Just
refresh?
refresh your screen, hit F5 on your. There we go. I'm gonna grab that one right there, the second one.
It's weird how it's typing, and I'm not doing anything.
No, y'all can do the typing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna throw this here, and you guys can edit it to add what Robin was saying. So it currently says, the school committee will have a clear process to document and publish its annual budget and make it available to the community.
Is this gonna be online?
Yeah, I think everything that we have should be online.
Thank you. I think that will help, because people are often questioning,
Why
you know,
won't
when
this let
things
me-
come up. Oh,
Yeah.
how come we didn't know about this sooner? What, how come?
Yeah.
And now you have it right there.
Yep.
It's available to the community app.
Yeah. I think the main traffic for school-related documents should be to the school site, and that's where we should have it. And every year I find myself posting things on Facebook and elsewhere, sharing
Yeah,
it
we
with
should just
people.
Same
Right.
link.
Yep.
Click here, click here,
Go,
click here.
yeah.
Done.
How's that?
The second sentence doesn't make sense.
No, like,
Get
we
rid
would
of
cut
that?
that, yeah. But I didn't wanna cut it until we,
Agreed.
you know.
So when we say online for public accessibility, is it too deep in how we're gonna do it, or are we good with this? I don't wanna really belabor it. If we're good with it, we're good. If it,
Well, no, I like that, because more often than not, in these meetings with the finance committee and in the town, they're going back and forth as to what type of a budget. What did we create? I don't have a line item budget. All that is gonna be right there for
Okay.
them to read, right? That whole process. So
You know
go out
what
there,
else I
read it,
think
that's what we do.
would be helpful? Would be,
so making it online is what you,
Yeah.
some
okay.
kind of cheat sheet for all of the terms.
Right, so that's gonna be embedded in the document this year.
Okay.
It will be.
So if somebody was looking at the budget,
The
you know, they would see the little cheat sheet that would
Yep.
tell them what
acronyms.
what all of the acronyms mean and.
Yep. Yep. There'll also be a larger section, there'll be a section that defines some of the demographics of the community that's in standard, well-developed budgets. So as we go through that process, you'll see some changes in what we present this year.
Okay.
School committee will assist the
Okay.
Can you guys see what I'm typing?
Yeah.
School administration, building. How do we say it? Okay, school committee will assist in the development of a need-based budget in collaboration with the building,
District administration, because,
district administration, okay.
yeah, that includes the building principals.
I kind of wanted to single out the building principal, because when we talk about bottom up, they have probably most visibility into what that means for their buildings, but I don't want to really go
So
into
you
too
could
much
say
detail.
leadership team, because that's.
Which team?
Leadership team,
Leadership team.
yeah, because
it
that
include Adam?
includes,
That does,
Yes.
right? Okay.
yep. Yep. That includes the big buckets.
Okay, and part of it will fall on the Budget and Finance Subcommittee anyway, as we work with Adam. So this is the fiscal management goals. All right. So that's where it is. Okay, next. Are we good with that?
Yep.
With these two?
I'm good.
Okay.
I feel so inconsequential and not needed now.
Why is that? Oh, because
I
you're
don't
not
have the
typing?
time.
That's why we publish it online. So the next section where we had multiple items that we thought we needed some improvement were related to community relations. So just as a reminder, 3 items that were in red. The committee has a public relations plan for the school system. The committee works cooperatively with other branches of municipal government. The school system regularly reports its own progress and accomplishments. All of them were in red. So is there a way to combine them, or should we just do what we did and create separate goals for each one of those? The first one is important. The committee has a public relations plan for the school system, and I guess the countermeasure is the school committee will develop a public relations plan for the school district, for the school district,
Mm-hmm.
and it will fall on you guys, the community relations.
So the goal is we'll have a,
Yeah, so I can just type that.
and you need the heading.
Committee. This will be an exciting meeting for everyone to watch. The school committee.
Aren't they all?
What happened?
It-
Oh, you deleted it? Oh, okay. School committee will create So the school committee will create and maintain a public relations plan for the district. That's the first goal?
Yep.
The second one was the committee works cooperatively with other branches of municipal government. So this is an important one. And I don't want to just repeat what it says.
What's the third one?
The committee works cooperatively with other branches of municipal government.
What's
Even though as a goal it's fine, it's not specific enough.
The third one was to, I think, tout our accomplishments and achievements,
Yeah.
which one could argue goes into maintain the public relations, but I think we should keep it separate for now.
And we don't have to pick every single one of them that is in the red. So what do we want to say with respect to cooperation with branches of municipal government?
Well, I don't want to leave the word seek, or the phrase seek out, because that puts all the onus on us, right?
You don't want to, what is it again? You don't?
The way it's written here, the school committee will seek out a way to work with the other, but that puts all the onus on us to make it all work, and it's really.
Well,
That's why this
think-
is this one's a little more complicated
Yeah.
because it's not totally within the school committee's control.
Right.
Okay. So what would be a goal for us that would be achievable?
The biggest thing is how do we measure our success, right? because it's so much out of our.
That will
control.
come as an outcome of it. I mean, there are different things we can do. We can look at the number of meetings, we can look at what is coming out of those meetings, we can look at the interaction with the town administrator for budget-related stuff, right? So we can come up with things, it's just a matter of
I
coming up
kind
with
of
the
like
right
the way
goal.
it's being written right here.
The school committee will work cooperatively, communicate clearly and effectively.
Is it to advocate for the needs of the school department or the school district?
With the other town.
I mean,
departments.
that is our charge.
Right. Well, the advocacy part can be with anyone. I mean,
Right.
we advocate
Mm-hmm.
with elected officials at the
Mhm.
state level, at the regional level, local level. We advocate in front of the town meeting. But I think this one specifically talks about our collaboration with other
Yeah.
departments of the town. So I like the first part. I don't know who wrote this one, but I like the first part. The school committee will work cooperatively, communicate clearly and effectively. That's good. But I think one of you said that puts the onus, and I have no
No.
problem with that,
No, no, no.
entirely on the school committee.
It was written a little bit differently before, where we would seek that out. That's where I think
Oh,
it puts
okay.
the onus
I
on
hear
us.
you. I hear you.
That's the part I had a
Yeah,
little
I just
concern
cut
about.
that part out.
Yeah. Reading it the way it is means we'll do, the way I read it is we'll do our fair share and then some to make this all happen, right? Like, but if it doesn't work, it's not really up to us to chase everybody down, is the way I was reading the original.
Yeah, we can
Yeah,
probably-
that to me feels, as
Which
it's
part?
written now,
I
Okay.
think we should
It-
cut this.
it just kind of feels like that's what we should be doing. Anyway, that it's not
Yeah.
necessarily a goal, that's something that we should be doing on an ongoing basis,
Yeah.
and making it a goal kind of feels,
But based on the stories and what I've been told, it hasn't always happened.
no,
Yeah.
I understand that.
So are you saying it's table stake, not necessarily in need of being mentioned as a separate
in your-
goal?
In your business speak,
Yes.
yes, that's what it means.
Okay.
I like that. What did you say, table stake?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, somebody might look at that and say, well, you should be doing that anyway. Why are you making that a goal?
Right. Honestly, everything that we talked about is probably something that we should ideally do, but this is to hold ourselves accountable. And when we go back, we're bringing it every month, every other month, in front of us. We are able to say whether or not we are doing things to achieve these objectives or these goals.
I just don't, I mean, I'm just opposed to putting like, a certain number of meetings and things like that, because that just gets to the point where you're just doing things to put a check mark, like, oh, we have to have one more meeting. If it's not eventful or
No,
fruitful, then don't
are you
do it.
referring to what I said earlier?
No, I'm just saying, I'm trying to think of ways we can make that a little bit more,
Yeah, we're gonna have to create
Strenuous.
some way to measure it, right?
yeah.
And that can be anything. And I think measuring meetings is not really, that's not even a metric. It's just, it's
No,
counting.
So I sat there with them 3 times. It doesn't really mean anything. I
Right,
can't get
it
anything
doesn't.
accomplished.
It doesn't.
But if you follow Cheryl's suggestion, put the word advocate for the, school system, you can measure your goals by, advocating and what it accomplished, or what you,
Bless you.
the outcome of advocating for that. Like, I'm just gonna say something off the top of my head, like advocating for a playground. And yes, we didn't get the whole playground, but we got a swing set. Do you see where I'm going with that? Where if you put the word advocate in
Yeah.
there, somehow you have, something to measure by.
Can you go back and read the statement from the
self-assessment. That one says the committee, where am I? The committee works cooperatively with other branches of municipal government.
There we go.
So,
That's
There
where I
you
was
go.
going with that.
But see,
so we're perceived as not, and that's not just school committee, I think in general, the relationship is perceived as,
and that's why I think we have it marked low, is it's not so much what we're doing, it's just the lack of getting the cooperation back at certain points in time.
yeah, with other branches.
It's not anything that we're doing or we can really change, except continuing to do the same thing and let them know we're not going away and.
Okay.
Did you see what I just put in there?
Yes, so the school committee will work cooperatively, communicate clearly and effectively, and commit to improving relationships with other branches of municipal government.
That's nice. You did that. Good job.
It was a combination of, as far as I can see, blue, red, and orange, fighting over words.
But I'm gonna take all the credit.
You notice
Come on, I
there's
only
none
had 7 months to go.
there's none of
No,
my color in there.
that's very nice, Dan. I like that. Are you one of those?
No, I'm not typing because it'd be a fist fight.
So one last question. Do we think that if we leave it this way, we can come up with some measurable actions?
Well, see, that's the tough part right, on this one is how do we measure and how do
And
how
we're
do we
not going to do
create
it tonight,
actions?
but when
Yeah.
we get there,
Well, it seems to me that if we commit to a goal, then it's because we all have ideas in our mind why we needed this goal in the first
Well, and I
place. So
think-
then we'll come up
yeah.
with,
Some of the action steps around
exactly.
having a liaison to the select board, having a liaison to the,
okay, it's all good.
finance board,
I like
having, creating different ways, continuing with some of the standard ways we've been reaching out and shifting and changing the relationship, because I don't think that the committee
should not recognize the positive direction that the relationship has started to go. But what are some other things that we might be able to do in action steps that could promote even more open dialogue and communication?
Yeah, and I think, in the spirit of the conversation that we had last time, we are human beings, and sometimes we just, think, is this really a one-sided thing?
Right.
Can we,
Yep.
are we going to have any reciprocity? But that's the commitment part of it. You commit that this is what you want to do as a person, as an organization, and that's what you do, and that's what we're saying here, and I like that.
Mm-hmm. And it's stated positively, which I
Yeah,
appreciate.
yeah, otherwise, we recently had this conversation based on what, we heard or watched.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's always the way of going and turning it into this back and forth, or maybe even an escalated debate or disagreement. We said, no, we just, we really would like to make sure that we focus on the positive and continue
Yep.
to do things that will benefit everyone in this town. So I think
Right.
that's what we're saying here. Cool, I like this. Any other suggestions? Everybody's good with the way it reads? The school committee will work cooperatively, communicate clearly and effectively, and commit to improving relationships with other branches of municipal government.
The thing, I'm jumping down the road, but the only thing I could think of to help measure this is the amount of stuff and time they're waiting for us to do, to come up with our documentation or our answers to,
Yeah.
to stuff, right? So that means like if Adam gets a request, we get that fulfilled within a reasonable amount of time.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you have some,
Yeah, so our leadership team philosophy criteria is 48 hours. Minimally, we will respond within 48 hours. We try for 24 within the day, but just kind of depends on how stuff comes in sometimes. But minimally, you'll hear from, if you've emailed, called, left a message, you will hear from us within 48 hours, at least to say, we've gotten the message, and we'll get back to you. We're researching, or
And then the subsequent follow-up, I'm assuming is still there, like, so I thought I was gonna get that information by Thursday, and here it is, late Wednesday, and I still don't have it. So I'm
Right.
just reaching out and saying, hey, it might be a
And I
little
think
bit late.
that what we're trying to establish is a positive way to establish also the reciprocity in that, is that if the school department's asking for information or needs responses, that somehow we come to an agreement that a response from municipal would come within that same reference time. You know, we're all busy, we are Granby, we understand that we are doing many more things than in a larger district, whether it's as a building principal or superintendent, town administrator, town treasurer, any of those positions, supervisor, a facility, all of that, we're doing much more than you would in some of the larger districts. We have more people, but at the very least, the courtesy of the response is, I think, a step in the right direction.
Agreed. The next one says the school district regularly reports its own progress and accomplishments. So part of it, I believe, is what the community relations subcommittee is doing, but there is potentially another part of it that will look to the administrative team to say, or leadership team, this is how we would like to be able to bring up success stories and accomplishments across this district, and this is how we're going to share those. I'm sure Jen and Jen will come up with some suggestions on that, but there seems to be two separate parts to that that need to come together. We can't just go and have different types of stories everywhere. So would it be fair to leave that with what they're trying to do, and if that doesn't get addressed, then we can talk about it at that time? What do you guys think?
Yes, I
Yeah,
think so.
because I think that falls under the maintain part.
Right, yep. The last section, which was the conduct of meetings, which had two items in red. One was committee members receive sufficient information far enough in advance to prepare for meetings. And the second one was the physical setting is conducive to productive discussion and decision making. It seems like at least,
That one.
yeah,
These chairs are much more
yeah,
comfortable.
we're happy about this place. And the first one looks like it goes to meeting norms more so.
Yes.
So we have to really decide that after a certain point, unless there's an emergency or there's a last minute addition
Right.
because we just found about it and it's critical and we have to talk about it, anything that gets added after a certain point, it just goes to the next meeting. So we create that process to hold ourselves on a timeline. It's not always easy. I mean, we just found out that, for instance, and I'm saying this with a lot of respect, Jen was not necessarily checking, not you, Jen Bartos, wasn't necessarily able to check her email over the weekend. We always tell people, if that you should not just have a day or two to be able to respond to your emails because you may or may not have the opportunity to check your email and stuff. We should be respectful of that and add whatever we can into our folder that is pertinent to the discussion by a certain time. I think you and Kathy started posting the meetings earlier now.
Yes.
So that allows us to put the related documents in the folder earlier. But after that, we should just say,
Right.
you know what, we're done. We're not going to be able to,
So we're shooting for Thursday before the Monday.
for full document, okay.
Yep.
And nothing will
Yep.
be added for discussion after that point.
Right.
Unless, again, it's something that is urgent, has to be discussed and over.
Right.
Okay.
Well, if that's the case, if there is something that's urgent and needs to be discussed, then we'll need a heads up.
Right.
Some sort of, because if I'm going on the assumption that all the documents are gonna
Right.
be in there by Thursday, and say I look at it Friday and Saturday, I may not go back to
Right.
anything.
So in
until
which case, we
meet
would-
Monday night.
I guess we would probably make a process or something around, if something's added, then we would be emailing you directly
Right.
that there's additional information. But our goal truly is to get all of the meeting documentation in on Thursday, which does allow you, remember, to have the reverse correspondence, that if you had questions about what was in the folder, that gave us a little bit more time to maybe clarify, find some more information, so that, if you had any, again, clarifying questions around content, we could get more information to you.
I'm not a prolific user of Google Drive. I don't know whether there's an alert that goes out when something's
Yeah. So I get really frustrated by that because there isn't really a way, unless I create a group and then just send you, hey, we put some more things in the
Okay.
in the email that I'm aware of.
So it's a manual
but
effort. It's not
I believe that
automatic.
they were trying to do something, because that's a request that a lot of users have. But I haven't heard that they've enabled an alert for updates.
Okay.
But Jen's gonna get on it as part of the communication committee, so.
All right. So is it fair that those two items in this section, they don't necessarily need a goal?
No,
Just
I don't think so.
okay. So how many goals do we have? We have 2, 4, 6.
Yeah. That's a lot of goals.
Yeah. So do we all agree that that's a good set of goals for us to work on?
It's ambitious.
That's good. I mean, goals should be ambitious in my mind. There's no guarantee you will achieve the goals, but as long as we make an attempt to get there. All right. So should we read the goals one more time? So for operational goals, we have school committee will have a well-established training and orientation for new members. School committee will have a procedural manual that documents operational procedures and protocols, as well as roles and responsibilities of the committee and its members. Under fiscal management goals, we have school committee will have a clear process to document and publish its annual budget online for public accessibility. The second one in that section is the school committee will assist in the development of a need-based budget in collaboration with the leadership team. The third section is communication. I think it was community. It was called community relations. The school committee will create and maintain a public relations plan for the school district, and the school committee will work cooperatively, communicate clearly and effectively, and commit to improving relationships with other branches of municipal government.
So I had one question.
Is it need-based or needs-based?
Needs.
I think it's needs too.
Probably needs.
The first goal under operations, school committee will have a well-established training and orientation for new members. What would that look like, just in general?
A 50-page document that,
That was the one you were doing, so I was hoping you would know what that would look like.
The second
Well,
one?
The way it's written makes it sound as though somebody is going to be training this person, not necessarily by looking at onboarding.
So if you put guide after orientation.
Yeah, I think it needs to
Yeah.
be
I was thinking kind of
worded
the same thing, but-
differently.
That you will be handed after elections.
Yeah,
here you go.
good luck. It's the
School
first
But
one.
I think,
The school committee will have a well-established training and orientation for new members, makes it sound as though
There will be a note.
it's an orientation day, it's a training session day, something like that.
but I think you define that when you develop that goal. So as I read that, part of training and orientation is that they need to go to the MASC training for school committee members. I think Emery had spoken about having a mentor on the committee to go and actually have that first conversation, that hour. It says, welcome to the committee, so happy you're here. And then, goes through the introduction. But I think it's defined by what you're developing.
Yeah.
I don't know, I just think it needs to be worded a little different.
Okay.
Maybe, I'm not sure, wait a minute. Because the second part of it, school committee will have a manual that documents operational procedures and protocols. To me, it still sounds as though that first one
The first one's separate.
is more of a training day, and that's not what it is. That's not what we're saying here. Maybe
But I
it's
think-
well-established training procedure, or well-established training and orientation process.
I like that. Process is good.
I mean, I know it's semantics, it's just,
So you're an
this
operations guy,
sounds like somebody's gonna be
So it takes
taking
a
you
process.
around and saying, and here's where
Yeah.
the leadership
We
team is,
needed
and then
a-
we,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think,
Needed
you
a
know, to your
noun.
point, that's exactly what has to happen to make people comfortable with what the roles are. And Granby's small enough that certainly is something that should be happening. We should be introduced to our new school committee members and, you know, meet with them. It's sort of like when we have a new member of the leadership team and they're doing an entry plan and they're speaking to people in the community and they're speaking to parents and they're asking school committee members questions and, you know, trying to get the lay of the land.
well,
Yeah.
if that's the case, then that's something that we hadn't talked about. I mean, if that's the case, then great, take process out of there. 'Cause it's not something that has ever been done up to this point, but if what we're saying is going forward, somebody is going to be doing that.
I'm a little biased. I like the word process because when you have a process, you also are suggesting that you can improve it. You
Right.
can change it.
Mhm.
You can, as you learn, you can make updates to it.
Well, that's also flexible where you can
It
actually
is
just
more
have a
flexible.
guide or an online document that somebody
Yeah.
can read or.
And I agree with you that the previous reading was sounding like it was an event more so than
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And this is a way for the new members to give feedback on their first, let's say, 2 months. You know, was it supportive? Was it helpful? Do you feel
Yeah.
that you can be an active member at the first meeting? And all of those things. That really you were trying to answer Jen Bartos's comments around, gee, I'm a new member, I'm not really sure what that means.
Right. Yep. Okay. So if we're good with these, then these are our goals for this school year. Doesn't mean they're going to be accomplished this school year. We have to establish measurement and timeline and specific steps for some of these things. And we should probably try to do it, you know, soon enough so we can start looking at our progress, whether or not we are hitting the targets that we would like to hit. This is good. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I think the next phase of this is gonna be a little more time consuming.
Yes, it will be.
I kind of wonder if operational goals doesn't fit under the work that you're doing, Deanne, and communications doesn't fit under the work that you're doing, and fiscal management doesn't
does.
fit. And then you guys can sort of hash out your sort of.
That's a good thought. The only challenge with that is
You knew there was a but
I know,
coming.
there always
No.
is. I hesitated before I even put it
no,
out
you
there.
should not have. I think that's great. The community, I agree. The budget, I agree. But Deanne is working alone on that one. So I was gonna suggest, you know, to get some help for what you're doing, unless what you're putting together, which you said it wasn't the case, but what you're putting together is gonna address everything that we're talking about here.
Well, what I'm putting together is actually put together. I would say it's about 95% done. So as soon as, as soon as we get it up in the folder, then we'll all be able to make suggestions, edits, that
Okay.
kind of thing.
Will you present it next Monday?
Well, that's what I was
Yeah, we
saying. I
can
mean,
put it on.
whatever,
Okay, so let's just make it part of the agenda. So the first one, at the very least, could be addressed could, or we can decide otherwise, but could be addressed by what you're creating already, or what you created already, then we can decide how we go about the second one if we believe that that remains a gap.
We're ready to, the Community Relations Subcommittee. So I don't know if you want us to present at the next meeting as well, or if you want to space these out and go out a couple of weeks.
Personally, I get excited over these things, so, and we, I think, agreed that we should focus more on our policy and our goals, strategy, and all that, so it kind of aligns with that perspective.
Okay.
If you're ready to present, let's just talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna add a generic title to the agenda that says
Okay.
school committee goals, so
Okay.
then whoever's ready to present can present.
Okay,
The 19th, we were going to do MCAS,
all right,
so that's gonna be a pretty heavy meeting, just with the accountability data. The 5th, we're gonna introduce our John and Abigail Adams Scholarship Award winners, so we're inviting them. It's actually, Adam is traveling, so will not be able to be at the 5th, which is a typical budget. So we'd be moving that to the 19th, so there'll be some extra time on the 5th.
So then let's plan for the 5th.
Okay.
Yeah.
He also promised he's gonna get chart rolls in sometime,
Yes.
so, right? Because I'd like to know if they're,
yeah.
if they're on track or.
Yep.
Because last year there was that big gap right in the beginning, I think, right?
Yeah. So did we say Adam is gonna be on the 19th?
Yes.
So let's just commit as a budget finance subcommittee to have a broader conversation on FY18 and FY19 with the school committee on the 19th as well.
Okay.
The more we try to get to a point where the information is perfect, this and that, we are really
Getting away.
delaying it, exactly. And it's getting cooler and cooler. I really would like to bring it back, share it with the school committee, get everyone's input, and if there is any action that needs to be
Yep.
taken, then we can just take the actions.
Mm-hmm.
Acknowledging that the figures may not be
Right.
to the T, but at least it gives us a good starting point. I agree with Deanne that the next step will take probably a little longer to come up with the measurements, with the targets as far as a timeline. When do we want to do that? It's almost November,
No,
then we're gonna go into the holidays and, can we do it before that? I would personally love to do it before that.
Well, there's certainly no reason we couldn't have another off week meeting on a Monday. It seems to work for folks.
Okay.
Policy will be wrapping up,
Yep.
well, except you added another whole thing, but that's okay. But that's typically when we were meeting,
Okay.
so.
And when this is done, I would like to share it wherever the community relations decides we're going to be posting these. I would like to share this with the community because it's not just about us. There was one item there that says, sharing successes and holding us accountable. I would like everyone to hold us accountable and make sure that we are. And next year's conversation could be better because of that.
Right.
Then folks would know what they should be talking about with respect to our accomplishments or
Yes.
delays or whatever
Right.
it might be at that time.
so then back to the question, when are we gonna do it? When are we gonna do the next part of this?
So we have the 5th and the 19th.
Mhm.
What is on the 12th? Do we have
That's-
anything?
Veterans Day,
Oh, it is Veterans Day. Okay.
can we do a different day?
Yeah, we can do a different day.
Do
Unfortunately, my
13th?
phone is dying, so I can
What
check
day
my
is
work.
that?
Tuesday?
Probably.
I can't, but again, I don't have to be here for your debate on timelines.
It depends on which Tuesday, every other Tuesday.
The
I'm not
13th?
home until 7:30 from work.
The 13th.
It's the
Oh,
one
you don't have
after.
your,
Yeah, but I can,
You
So
could-
it's 2 weeks from now.
What is that?
2 weeks from now? I
Yeah,
won't,
well,
no, I can't do a
1, 2,
Tuesday.
3.
Okay.
What about a Wednesday?
Wednesdays
Wednesday
are tough.
works.
Wednesdays are tough for you?
Very tough, yeah.
Could you do the 6th?
That's a Tuesday.
I can do the 6th.
You can do the 6th.
Oh, you can do the 6th?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Okay,
election
let's
day.
do the 6th then.
Sorry.
It's election day, does that matter to anyone?
Can we have a meeting on election day?
We're gonna be here, elections are over there, right?
Oh, I don't think you
never
can.
understood.
Yeah, there was,
Is there a
I'm
rule
not,
we can't?
I don't think you
it's getting
can.
late, so but there was something that when there is a conflict,
Because people wouldn't be able to come to the meeting because they might be voting. But when is voting over?
8 o'clock.
Hey,
Oh, okay. Well, you've got. It,
We could go to the 4th.
That's a Sunday.
that's a Sunday.
I mean, December 4th.
Oh.
You've got the 26th. We don't have a meeting on November 26th.
Oh, yeah.
That would be the next off week.
So that's basically a month from now.
Mm-hmm. Or
How are we on Thursdays?
It says not recommended. I don't think the law says you can't have it, it seems. Public hearings and meetings on primary or election day, not recommended holding them on the day of election.
what if you, just bear with me, what if you made the 19th this meeting and the 26th the school committee meeting? Because the 19th would be a budget update and the accountability, so it's not really gonna affect what I had planned to present, but it would get
Yeah,
this meeting.
I think we should get to that budget conversation
Okay.
sooner than later.
So what day?
I don't know yet. How about that week in the middle,
Yeah, how, like the 15th, the Thursday?
15?
Thursday, I wouldn't be able to get here until 7:20.
Okay, that wouldn't work. The 8th didn't work? November 8th?
I won't be here.
That's right, that's the,
Every Thursday I work until 7.
That's the week of
Okay.
the MASC thing too.
All right, so how about we doodle again?
So far, the date that we all agree on is the 26th. That we know works for
Is
everybody.
it too far out?
And it's far out.
Okay, so weighing two things. Would we rather have the budget conversation on the 26th or this conversation on the 26th?
and we said that the 6th, we were only concerned about the election.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't a community
Yeah.
meeting.
No, I know.
This is a work group.
Still an open meeting.
It's an open meeting,
Yeah.
but, I mean, if it's recommended, but
Let's just double check to make sure based on that, it seems like it is recommended not to have it, but let's just double check if that's the case, if the 6 is working for everyone. Maybe we can start late. Maybe we can start, I don't know,
Start at
7? Yeah. So it would not really overlap too much with the elections. And
It's not a meeting, it's a workshop, right? That's what we're calling
But it's still an
it.
open meeting. We
I
have
mean,
No,
they can
no,
still
I understand
attend,
that,
but
and-
people are well aware the intent is not a vote.
Right.
There isn't any business that's coming before the school committee. It is simply the school committee goals. It'd be like having it's like having the school committee training.
And, you know, as I was going through these different policy manuals for school committees, I could have sworn I came across something like that, that said something to that effect. But, and that's all I have for that. So I think it's possible.
It's possible.
Okay. All right, so we'll, tentatively we'll do it on the 6th. If there's anything that says we can't, then we'll just do a doodle and offer a few. In fact, let's just do it this way. If it doesn't happen on the 6th, doesn't look like we're gonna have time until the 26th,
Correct.
right?
Right.
So let's just let's do it on the let's do Monday after Thanksgiving. Is that correct? Okay, so is that good for everyone if the 6th doesn't work, the 26th, for
Yeah.
this purpose?
Right.
Okay, so we'll do it that way.
Can I just throw out there, do we
Yes.
suppose that this is going to take 2 meetings?
What is going?
What's gonna take 2 meetings?
That it's going to take the 5th, it's going to take the 6th, and,
No, no,
26th.
no.
No,
It's
no,
just,
no.
We're
If the
just-
6th
I
is
know,
not,
but I'm just, it's a lot to do on the 6th. We're gonna go through each of the goals, set timelines, set benchmarks, set outcomes. Is that more than 1 meeting, is what I'm saying? Because if it's more than 1 meeting,
I think we're gonna spend the whole meeting we could spend the whole meeting just talking about all of the materials you're putting together. This group,
I'm just wondering, should you schedule both days?
we can
Oh.
always cancel the 26th
Yeah, we
if we
could.
don't need it.
We could, right?
At least we can get it on the calendar.
Because it's open right now for everybody,
Yep.
just schedule it.
Yeah, why don't we say that?
Yep.
Just for,
Just the mom in me trying to get ahead of things.
just for ha-has.
all right.
So what we're saying is every Monday in November,
Yeah.
Not Veterans Day.
except for Veterans.
Veterans Day.
Yeah, so you get a break Veterans
Nice.
Day.
Do we want to start at 7 on that Monday?
Yes. Yep. Any other topics, comments for our next meeting
And what was
or the
other
upcoming
one?
meetings?
11:20.
So next meeting, we're gonna have
26th.
presentation from
Possibly.
Deanne on the onboarding orientation. We're gonna have presentation from the community relations. We're gonna have a presentation from the Budget and Finance Committee on the 19th. And additional fiscal year information from Adam, right? Can we invite Chartwells on the 19th as well?
I wasn't really planning on making a presentation.
We already told the
You're on the
public
agenda.
it's a presentation.
Well, what I mean by that is
Do you have PowerPoint or?
the plan was that I was gonna send it out in a folder so that everybody can take a look at it and review it and then come to the school committee meeting with comments and so we can change it and make final edits
Okay.
and.
You gotta sell this thing.
As long as it's in there before
That's fine,
Thursday,
but
right?
If I would've known that.
But here's the thing, I think that's a great idea. So, one thing around that, you share it, we can't discuss it.
No, we're gonna discuss it here.
Right.
Yes.
So when we discuss it here, I'm assuming that there will be some questions, there will be some suggestions for
Right.
edit and stuff. That's
Right.
what I'm talking about when I say presentation.
But
It
if
doesn't have
we-
to be a formal presentation.
Okay, because if we show up here and you're just looking at the document for the first time,
Yeah.
you're gonna spend
Well, absolutely,
45
yeah.
minutes just trying to digest the document.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is it possible for you to provide some outlines of the document? You know, what it means, what it's supposed to do, and here are some of the
It's all gonna be
headers.
self-explanatory.
Not for us, but for the public, so that
Oh.
they know what
Right.
we are doing.
Just front of the camera.
Yeah.
You can choose your own colors, we're not gonna limit. All
This is
right,
not my wheelhouse, Emery, okay?
all right.
I beg to differ.
Anything
No.
else? Is there a motion to
Well done.
adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor, please
Aye.
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 Oh, I don't get to vote on that one. Sorry.